It's the most wonderful time of the year, and like a warmly anticipated Christmas tradition, Cecil Murphey is back with book number, are you ready? 114. Already a bestseller, Christmas Miracles. And amazingly, this author has 4 books coming out in 2010. Cecil, welcome back from Atlanta, Georgia. We are a little bit in awe. 2 books already standing by for January. You're a 3-time award winner of the Author of the Year Award from the Council of Authors and Journalists, 3-time finalist for Evangelical Press's Gold Medallion and the winner in 1995, writing full-time since 1984. But I forgot that you are also an ordained minister.
That's correct.
You used to do hospital visitation
as
a chaplain as well.
Sure.
You know, that means a lot when we have a book with stories for people who surely are drawn to this title because they need a miracle. They want to believe that miracles can happen for them.
And it can.
Mm-hmm. You know it from being in that hard place. Now here's a fun thing, and I don't mean to harass, but I heard a sermon once, and as a former preacher, you'll appreciate this, on the difference between miracle and wonderful. Some things we might label a miracle are just wonderful, which is wonderful. I mean, wonderful, excellent, great, marvelous, like we had a wonderful weekend. But a miracle, an effect or extraordinary event in the physical world that surpasses all known human or natural powers and is ascribed to a supernatural cause. It's considered as a work of God.
Yeah, and I think
we have both in here, don't we?
Pardon?
We have both.
Oh, yeah. But, you know, the only thing I want to say is that sometimes the miracle may be just a matter of timing, where 2 people are totally unrelated to each other converge, come together at the perfect moment. That's when it's a miracle. Mm-hmm. When it couldn't, by every rule of logic, it shouldn't happen.
It's divinely orchestrated.
Sure.
No question.
Yeah.
Now, your first miracle, I think, had something to do with a pair of black shoes.
That's right. You want to hear the story?
Yeah.
I was about 11 years old. Now, you have to understand, I didn't have much of a church background. Probably 25, 50 times is about as much as I ever went to church as a kid. It was like in my 20s when I became a believer. But I had this wonderful teacher. She was not a great teacher, but a wonderful Christian woman named Moira Brown. And she used to say, you know, if you pray for something, God will give it to you. And I took her quite literally. And my dad was, well, he was also an alcoholic, but he was out of work, had been sick for a while. I don't remember how long he was out of work, maybe 2 months, something like that. And Christmas was coming. And all I wanted was a pair of black shoes. I had a principal who walked down the hallway with taps on his shoes. They were black. And I just loved to watch him walk and listen.
Click.
And yeah, listen to the clicking of the. And so that's what I prayed for. And my mother said, well, maybe you won't get black. And I said, no, Mrs. Garvey said, black. If I ask for black, I'll get black. Well, somebody turned our name into the Salvation Army, and they brought gifts, boxes of gifts. And so I was waiting for my shoes to put them on, and there were no shoes. There were toys and things like that. I was so disappointed. And I just agonized because I said, you know, Mrs. Garvey said, and my mother was so sweet. She just kept saying, honey, you know, God doesn't always do exactly what we want. Well, I waited all day, every time a car would come by, I was sure they were bringing the black shoes, nothing happened. So finally I just gave up. I walked a block away in the winter, this is in Iowa, snow on the ground, so to my best friend, Chuck Baldwin. And I had a hole in one of my shoes, I've forgotten which one it was, and my sock was all wet and all of that. And so Mrs. Baldwin asked me to take off my shoes, and, you know.
At the door.
Yeah, at the door, while I was waiting for Chuck. And every year, the Baldwins got their Christmas gift. Their dad went to we were all poor in that neighborhood. They would go to a shoe repair shop and give them rebuilt shoes. And when I was sitting there, she said to me, by the way, what size shoe do you wear? And I don't remember, whatever it was.
How old were you?
11.
11.
And she said, well, we got a pair of shoes for Chuck, and they don't fit, and they won't take them back. Could you wear them?
These were new.
No, they were rebuilt, but they were like new.
Okay.
Yeah, and I knew that, and I said, and they're black, aren't they? And they were a perfect fit. And so I went home proudly showing my new black shoes to my mother.
What a message to her.
That wasn't my conversion experience, but later on when I became a believer, that was one of the things that was so impressive. I never forgot that.
You remembered God's kindness.
Yeah, even when I didn't understand any of this.
You know, Cecil, we're going to have you back in the new year to talk about, I don't know what number book this is, 113, maybe?
Yeah.
When God turned off the lights. There are things I know about the trials in your life. I have, in these last 2 days, read things I didn't know. Physical abuse, sexual abuse in that early life, terrible things. And as you bring us now, I hope, to your first Christmas, where Christ was real to you, I marvel that you made it through all that at all.
Well, you know, I am too. I truly believe that somehow God had his hand on me. I came from a family of real alcoholics. My dad was an alcoholic. My grandfather was an alcoholic. My 3 brothers all died of alcoholism. My 3 sisters married men who either drank heavily or were alcoholics, and I was the odd one in the family. Liquor just didn't have any particular appeal to me. And then I was sexually abused by an elderly man and also by a female relative. So, you know, and the good thing in my life, I guess you could call this, I forgot it for many years until I think I was ready to deal with it, and then all the memories started pouring out, just really awful.
When you were in your 40s?
Yes, in my 40s.
That's suppressed.
And the memories just flooded then. And it wasn't because I had any therapist or anybody. I see, one of the things we often struggle with is trust, and I wouldn't have trusted a therapist. So they just kind of, at the right, I could now perhaps, but back then, you know. But you want me to talk about my first Christmas?
Yes.
I became a believer in about maybe age 21, just before I turned 22. And I had what I call an aborted love affair. You know, this woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with, you know, and she dumped me.
Unrequited love.
Yeah, she dumped me, and I'm grateful for that. And then I started reading the Bible, a New Testament, picked it up. I was in the Navy, I picked it up at the chapel, just started reading it. One day I came to the verse in Romans 10:20. It said, I was found with those who sought not for me. And I thought,
It's God speaking.
that's me. And I remember thinking, that's me, and I believe this. And then I thought, what do I do now? I didn't know. I honestly didn't know. So I thought, well, I better go to church. So I started visiting churches, and I found this church, and there was a redhead that sang in the choir, and she noticed me, but I didn't notice her particularly. And I was in uniform, and she gave me a ride back to the base. That was common.